K9. German Shepherd left hanging from a frozen bridge until the soldier shows up. What happens next will break you. He was trained to be fearless. A military canine, hardened by war, loyal beyond comprehension. But nothing could have prepared Rex for what happened that day. When a mission went wrong, a bridge collapsed, and he was left dangling by his harness over a frozen ravine, the icy wind cutting through his fur, his paws clawing at the air, hours ticking by like a slow death. Everyone thought he'd been lost. Everyone. Except the one person who had once promised never to leave him behind. When that soldier reappeared, something happened that no one expected. Not even Rex. This is not just a story about survival. It's about a bond that defies frost, fear, and fate itself. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and turn on notifications. This helps us bring more powerful, emotional stories like this straight to your heart. Let's dive into a journey of loyalty, heartbreak, and the moment that changed everything. The mission had started like any other. A recon operation along the icy edge of a Colorado mountain range near the border of a decommissioned training zone. Sergeant Daniel Hawkins had been paired with his trusted canine partner, Rex, a 6-year-old sable German Shepherd with a track record of flawless performance. They were the best team the unit had, until everything fell apart. A cold wind sliced through the pine trees as Daniel crouched behind a snow-covered boulder, scanning the ridgeline through his scope. Rex stayed low beside him, alert, ears perked, body tense with anticipation. The trail was slick, frozen solid from days of sub-zero temperatures. Ice groaned beneath their boots and paws with every movement. "Let's move," Daniel whispered. Rex obeyed instantly, nose to the ground, tracking the scent they'd picked up earlier. A suspicious figure seen hiking in restricted territory. The bridge ahead was the only passage across the narrow gorge. A rickety steel structure swaying in the wind, its cables coated in frost, its footing nearly invisible beneath the snow. Daniel hesitated, then tapped Rex's vest. "Go, I'll be right behind you." Rex stepped onto the bridge first, his movements precise. The metal creaked with every paw step, but they'd crossed worse before. Halfway across, Daniel was about to follow, when the unimaginable happened. A cracking sound, sudden, sharp. Then, steel screamed. One of the side cables snapped loose and whipped back violently. The bridge tilted. The frozen panel beneath Rex's paws gave way, collapsing into the abyss below. "Rex!" Daniel's scream echoed across the ravine as the dog disappeared from view. But Rex didn't fall completely. His tactical harness, still clipped to a side cable, caught him midair. Now he dangled, 30 feet above a river frozen like jagged glass, the cable digging into his torso, his legs swinging helplessly. Snow whipped around him. The wind howled. And Daniel, frozen at the edge, couldn't breathe. "Hold on, boy. Hold on," Rex whimpered, barely audible over the wind. But his eyes, wild with fear, locked on to Daniel's. They didn't blink. They didn't look away. Daniel dropped to his belly, crawling toward what remained of the bridge. But the structure was beyond unstable. The support beams groaned under his weight. One more step and it might give entirely. He radioed in, "This is Sergeant Hawkins. K9 down. I repeat, K9 suspended on South Bridge. I need a rope team and evac now." Static answered. He cursed. The signal was dead. Too remote. Too high up. No backup. No time. The soldier looked back down at Rex. The shepherd's chest was heaving, his front paws twitching, claws scraping against air. The harness cord was strong, military grade. But even it had a limit. The minutes stretched into an hour. Then 2. Daniel shouted, cried, prayed, but nothing worked. The sky began to dim, the sun slipping lower behind the peaks. The temperature dropped, and still Rex held on, muscles trembling, eyes locked upward, waiting, hoping. Daniel paced the bank like a caged animal. His gloves were torn. His hands bled from trying to build makeshift pulleys out of rope and branches. Nothing reached far enough. Nothing was stable enough. The gorge was too wide. And all the while, Rex hung, waiting, alone. But just when Daniel thought the night would take him, just when he collapsed to his knees in the snow, whispering apologies into the cold, a noise behind him broke the silence, the unmistakable crunch of boots on frost. A figure appeared out of the trees. Heavy coat, frosted beard, snow goggles. It was Sergeant Vega, the only other man who'd ever trained with Rex. He ran forward, dropping his pack. "You're not the only one who never gave up on him," Vega said. Together, under the last sliver of sunlight, they began to build something stronger. But would it be in time? The sun vanished behind the ridgeline, casting the mountain gorge in deep shadow. The temperature plummeted, and the icy wind grew sharper, slicing through layers of clothing like paper. Yet Daniel and Vega moved driven by urgency, fear, and the unbearable sight of Rex, still hanging by his harness, shivering and silent, beneath the swaying remnants of the bridge. Daniel's voice was hoarse from shouting. "He's losing strength, Vega. If that harness gives—" "It won't," Vega cut in, snapping open the reinforced rescue pack he'd carried up the mountain. "And neither will we." From the pack, Vega pulled out a coiled line, high-tensile rescue cable, along with climbing gear, carabiners, and a winch. He looked Daniel in the eye. "We do this now, or we lose him. Forever." Daniel nodded, swallowing the knot in his throat. Minutes later, they were harnessed together, tethered by rope, crawling out onto the remnants of the bridge with the new line rigged to a tree, bolted into the frozen rock face. Every step was calculated. Every movement could mean the difference between life and death. Not for them, but for Rex. Below, the shepherd whimpered faintly. His ears were pinned back, and his eyes, wide, terrified, and no longer focused, blinked slowly as frost gathered around his muzzle. "Hang in there, buddy," Daniel called, trying to keep his voice steady. "We're coming, just a little longer." Vega reached the anchoring point first and secured the winch system. Daniel clipped into the line and inched downward toward Rex, suspended by harness and hope alone. The drop was terrifying. Wind gusts slammed against him, sending him swinging as the frozen cables groaned under the shifting weight. Ice cracked somewhere nearby. The world felt like it was splitting open. But Daniel didn't stop. Not now. Not after all they'd been through. When he reached Rex, the dog's head lolled weakly. His tongue was dry, eyes dull. Daniel reached out and gripped the harness strap. "Hey," he whispered. "I've got you. I promised I'd never leave you, remember?" He unhooked Rex from the twisted cable and clipped him onto his chest rig, securing the dog's weight against his own. The added burden pulled at the line, hard, but it held. Then slowly, shakily, Daniel began the ascent. Above, Vega turned the winch handle with everything he had, grunting against the cold and friction. His hands blistered. The gear creaked, but the line moved and, inch by inch, pulling them upward. Daniel clutched Rex close, feeling the dog's faint heartbeat against his chest. "You're not dying today," he murmured. "You don't get to leave me. Not like this." The final stretch took everything they had, muscle, grit, pure desperation. When Daniel finally reached the ledge and Vega grabbed his hand, hauling both man and dog to solid ground, He collapsed in the snow, sobbing, not from pain, but from relief. Rex didn't move. His body lay limp across Daniel's chest, eyes shut, breath barely there. "Medic!" Vega shouted into his comms. "We need evac now. K9 critical." Daniel didn't let go. Even as the medevac chopper thundered overhead, even as paramedics rushed them onto the snow-covered helipad a few hundred feet away, even as the rotor blades cut through the night like thunder. Inside the helicopter, Daniel cradled Rex's head in his lap, whispering old training commands and memories. Their first mission, their first win, the first time Rex leapt into his arms after a hard-fought day. He told the dog everything, as if memory could keep a heartbeat alive. Rex blinked, just once, a twitch in his paw, the faintest whimper, and Daniel leaned closer, whispering through tears, "That's it. Stay with me. I'm right here." He didn't notice the flight medic glance up, eyes wide. "He's stabilizing." Vega leaned in from the other side of the cabin. "He waited for you, Hawk. That dog. He waited until he heard your voice." Daniel looked down, gripping Rex's paw. "Then I'll never stop speaking it." Below them, the mountain faded into shadow, but inside that helicopter, something flickered back to life. Not just a pulse, but hope. The emergency veterinary hospital in Denver was a stark contrast to the frozen chaos of the mountains. Warm light poured through glass walls. Machines beeped steadily in private ICU suites. The staff moved with practiced urgency, calm, clinical, and efficient. Rex lay on a padded recovery table, wrapped in thermal blankets, an oxygen mask secured gently over his snout. An IV line fed warm fluids into his vein, while heat lamps glowed above him, trying to coax his body temperature back to normal. His breathing was shallow. His paws occasionally twitched, echoes of the trauma still locked inside his exhausted muscles. Daniel hadn't left his side, not once. He sat in a chair beside the table, still in his tactical gear, still soaked in sweat and snowmelt. His hands trembled slightly as he ran his fingers along Rex's fur, careful not to disturb the monitors or the wires. He made it this far, the attending vet had said. But the next 24 hours will be critical. If he fights, he has a chance. Daniel didn't need to be told that Rex was a fighter. He'd seen it on the battlefield, in collapsed buildings, in foreign deserts, and on that bridge dangling in silence, waiting for a man who had once promised, "I'll never leave you behind." Daniel whispered now, voice low and raw. "Come on, boy. Come back to me. You didn't hang on all that time just to give up now." Across the room, Sergeant Vega leaned against the wall, arms crossed, watching the silent exchange. "You know," Vega said softly, "I always thought you needed him more than he needed you." Daniel looked up, expression tight. "You're not wrong. He made you human again," Vega added. "After the things we saw, after the things we did, it was Rex that pulled you back." Daniel looked at Rex and gave a slow, painful nod. "I didn't even realize how broken I was until he started healing me." Hours passed. A nurse came and went, adjusting fluids, checking vitals. Outside the window, Denver glowed beneath a rising moon. Inside, time moved slower. At midnight, Rex stirred. His paw twitched again, more deliberate this time. Then his tail gave a faint flick. His ear twitched toward Daniel's voice as he leaned in, speaking softly. "Rex, buddy, it's me. You're safe now." The shepherd's eyes fluttered. Then slowly they opened, cloudy, disoriented, but alive. Daniel exhaled a shaky breath, smiling through wet eyes. "There you are." Rex tried to lift his head, couldn't, but gave the smallest, weakest bark. Daniel laughed, tears falling freely. "That's my boy." Vega stepped closer, eyes wide. He's responding? He's here, Daniel said. He never left. The nurse rushed back in, startled by the sound, and quickly began checking the monitors. Her face lit up as she adjusted the IV. Vital signs are climbing. This dog's a miracle. Daniel sat back, finally letting his body slump with relief. His hand never left Rex's side. And in that quiet room, beneath sterile lights and soft machines, something settled between them. Not just survival, but return. Rex hadn't just lived. He'd chosen to come back, chosen to fight. Later that morning, Daniel stepped outside to get some air. Vega followed. You know this won't be easy, Vega said. There's going to be rehab, long-term nerve tests. You may not deploy together again. Daniel nodded slowly, staring up at the brightening sky. Then we don't. We retire together. He gave me everything. It's time I give something back. Vega gave a small, proud smile. He's lucky to have you. No, Daniel replied. I'm the lucky one. He turned back toward the hospital door. Rex was waiting. And whatever came next, therapy, pain, recovery, they would face it the same way they always had. Side by side. 2 weeks had passed since the rescue. Rex was home now, or rather, in a makeshift recovery room inside Daniel's Colorado cabin. The cabin sat near the tree line, tucked away from the world. The same place where they used to train in peace between deployments. Now, it had become a battlefield of a different kind. One of slow healing, quiet determination, and the painful test of limits. Daniel had moved a cot beside Rex's padded orthopedic bed. Every day started early. Medications, range of motion therapy, supervised bathroom breaks. The once indestructible German Shepherd couldn't even climb stairs without whimpering. And that crushed Daniel more than anything. Come on, Rex, he said one morning, kneeling beside him with a soft voice. Just 2 more steps. You've got this. Rex looked up with exhausted eyes. He tried. His paw shifted forward, slipping slightly. Daniel caught him. The dog let out a frustrated growl, not at his handler, but at himself. Daniel knelt beside him and rested his forehead gently against Rex's. It's okay. We go slow, like always. But it wasn't like always. This time, the mission wasn't an enemy to track or a bomb to detect. It was about teaching a warrior how to walk again, and every failure felt personal. Sergeant Vega stopped by that afternoon, bringing supplies and the tactical harness Rex once wore in the field. Daniel opened the bag, hesitating when he saw it. Why'd you bring this? He asked quietly. Vega shrugged. Thought maybe seeing it might remind him who he is. Daniel shook his head. He knows who he is. The question is whether he thinks it still matters. Later that night, as Daniel sat on the porch watching the stars burn above the pines, he heard a soft sound behind him, the scrape of nails on wood. He turned quickly. Rex was standing on the threshold of the cabin, not sitting, not lying. Standing. Wobbly. Legs trembling, but up. His head was low, tongue out, breath ragged. But his tail wagged once, twice. Rex! Daniel rose slowly, not daring to peep too fast. You made it to the door. The shepherd took one careful step forward. Daniel knelt down, tears forming in his eyes. That's my boy. That's the dog who doesn't quit. Rex limped over and rested his head against Daniel's chest, letting out a long, tired breath. His weight was heavy, grounding, warm, alive. But the next morning brought a new blow. Daniel sat on a Zoom call with a military liaison officer. They'd reviewed Rex's scans, the muscle damage, the nerve stress, the cold-induced trauma. The verdict came quietly, clinically. Rex will be officially retired. He's no longer eligible for active service. Daniel closed his eyes. I understand. The call ended. The screen went dark. He turned to find Rex lying nearby, watching him. I guess that's it, Daniel said aloud. They're calling it. Rex didn't turn. But they're wrong, Daniel whispered. You're still the best damn partner I've ever had. He leaned over, pressing his forehead to Rex's once more. I'm not done if you're not. That evening, something shifted between them. Daniel brought the old training sleeve out from storage. The thick canvas one Rex used to tackle when he was a pup in his first week of obedience drills. He laid it down in the grass and waited. Rex watched from the porch, and slowly, cautiously, the shepherd rose. He stepped down, limped across the yard, and placed one paw on the sleeve. Daniel smiled. Yeah, he whispered. I see you. Because some dogs serve with medals, others with the quiet fight to live again. And Rex had just taken the first step into a new war, the war to reclaim himself. Spring came late to the Colorado mountains that year. Just when the snow began to melt and the earth started breathing again, a storm returned, wild, cold, and sudden. Rain lashed the cabin windows like angry fists, and thunder cracked over the ridgeline like distant explosions. Inside the cabin, Daniel lit the fireplace and placed extra blankets around Rex's bed. The old shepherd's recovery had been steady but fragile. He could now climb steps, walk short distances, even sit without trembling. But the storm brought with it something else, a change in Rex's mood. He growled softly when the wind howled. His body twitched in his sleep, as if chasing ghosts. Nightmares, Daniel suspected, of the fall, of the cold, of the hours spent dangling in silence, waiting for someone who might never return. Daniel sat beside him, running his hand along Rex's back. You're safe now, he whispered. That bridge is behind us. But deep down, Daniel knew wounds didn't always stay in the past. The power flickered, then went out. He grabbed a flashlight and checked the perimeter like instinct. Military training never left you. As he stepped outside, rain immediately soaked his jacket. Trees bent in the wind. Something rustled near the driveway. Then, a shape, a figure. A man stumbling through the storm, waving both arms. Daniel raised his flashlight. Who's there? The figure collapsed to his knees. Daniel rushed forward. It was a young man, barely in his 20s, soaked, shivering, face bruised. A duffel bag hung from his shoulder. One eye was swollen shut. Help, the boy whispered. Please. Daniel didn't hesitate. He helped the stranger inside, wrapped him in towels, set him near the fire. Rex stirred on the bed, ears flicking at the sound. The boy's name was Kyle. He'd hitchhiked up the mountain to escape his stepfather, a man who'd beaten him for years. He had nowhere else to go. He didn't even know where he was heading, just away. I saw lights in your cabin, Kyle murmured. Thought maybe you'd shoot me or help me. Didn't care which. Daniel looked at him for a long time. You were a kid looking for mercy. You knocked on the right door. Kyle slept in the guest room that night. Rex, surprisingly, didn't bark or growl. He simply stared at the closed door with calm eyes, as if he knew what it meant to run, to be broken. The next morning, the storm passed, and the world felt washed in. Daniel made breakfast while Kyle sat stiffly at the table. The boy looked at the framed photos on the mantel, images of Rex in uniform, nose pressed to sandbags, leaping through fire during drills, wearing medals with quiet pride. He's military? Kyle asked. Yeah, Daniel said. Best damn soldier I ever served with. Kyle turned to Rex, who lay nearby with his head on his paws. He looks like he's been through hell. He has. Kyle hesitated, then said softly, So have I. something shifted in the room. Later, when Daniel stepped out to fetch firewood, he returned to find Kyle sitting cross-legged on the floor beside Rex, gently stroking his fur. Rex didn't flinch, didn't move away. In fact, his tail tapped the floor once. Daniel stood silently in the doorway, watching, and something strange stirred in his chest. That night, as Kyle fed Rex his dinner and the shepherd licked his fingers, Daniel asked, "You ever worked with dogs?" "No," Kyle replied, "but I always wanted to." Daniel nodded. "Maybe you still can." Because in that moment, he saw it clearly. Rex wasn't just healing himself, he was starting to heal someone else. Over the next few weeks, something quiet but remarkable happened. Kyle stayed at the cabin. What began as shelter turned into something more, a rhythm, a purpose. Every morning, he'd help Daniel with Rex's therapy. He learned how to massage tired muscles, how to hold the support sling steady, how to read the shepherd's moods just by looking into his amber eyes. And Rex responded. He began standing faster, walking further, wagging his tail with real energy. When Kyle spoke, Rex listened. Not out of training, but trust. Daniel watched it all in silence, humbled by what he saw. One morning, Rex surprised them both. Kyle opened the front door to take him outside, and Rex didn't wait. He walked, unassisted, across the porch, down the steps, into the sun. Kyle knelt, tears in his eyes. "You did it, buddy. You did it." Rex turned, gently pressing his head into the boy's chest. From inside, Daniel smiled. Sometimes healing doesn't come from orders, but from being seen. Months later, Rex was officially declared medically retired. But far from finished. Daniel enrolled Kyle in a K9 therapy assistant program. The boy who once ran from pain now trained beside the dog who had endured it. Together, they visited shelters, helped veterans, and showed what survival looked like, not with medals, but with presence. On their last visit to the bridge, Daniel stood beside Rex and Kyle, overlooking the rebuilt support rails. The wind was quiet now, no frost, just light. Daniel knelt beside Rex and whispered, "You saved me once. Now you're saving him." Rex licked his hand. The past hadn't broken them. It had forged them into something stronger. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Share it with someone who believes in second chances. For dogs, for people, and for the kind of love that never lets go.